Good evening, everyone. Ryan Archer, West Ham Fan TV. As you can see, I'm joined by the man that gave me my first ever experience of celebrating a goal at Upton Park when he opened the scoring against Everton on the 13th of February 1995. It's the one and only, it's West Ham legend, Mr. Tony Cottee. Tony, how you doing?
I'm good, Ryan. How are you, mate? I remember that game really well. I got two that night. It was pouring down the rain, and it was personally for me, it was a great game. So I'm glad you was there to enjoy it with me.
Yeah, that was my first ever game, mate. I'll never forget it. I remember you putting us 1-0 up, and just hearing that Upton Park roar for the first time, being there, it's a memory that I'll never forget.
Yeah, I mean, but we all loved Upton Park, didn't we? So yeah, no, it was great. I think I come back from Everton about 4 months previous, so it was a big game for me. Obviously, I wanted to score. You always want to score against your old clubs, and it was nice to do it on that night.
Yeah, no, definitely, mate. But listen, Tony, as I said off camera, we've been lucky enough to have you on the channel before. Graham done a great interview with you a couple of years ago talking about your playing career at West Ham. So what I wanted to do tonight is get you on and just talk a little bit about the current West Ham. You know, at the moment, the game at the weekend, disappointing result, defeat to Chelsea. What was your thoughts on that?
Yeah, mate, it was. It's first and foremost, Ron, it's nice to talk about the current team and not be talking about a relegation fight. It just makes a change, doesn't it?
We've got to cling on to these. We've got to cling on to these moments.
Of course we have. I mean, the game itself, I've got to be honest, I was at Charlton at the weekend. So I missed the first half. I didn't see the first half live, and then I got back. I was having a bit of dinner and watching the second half. And to be really honest with you, Ryan, it was almost what I expected. And I don't mean that in any sort of negative way, but I think we've had such a good season. We was playing against what we know is a very strong, very talented Chelsea team. And, you know, listen, I would defy any team in the Premier League to go into a game without their two best players playing against one of the top teams, one of the top 6 teams in the country, and not find it difficult. You know, we did find it difficult up front, didn't we? I mean, if you haven't got your centre forward playing and you haven't got your best midfielder playing, it makes things really, really difficult. So, yeah, of course I'm disappointed. I mean, we all wanted to beat Chelsea. We always want to beat Chelsea, don't we? So it was a disappointing result. But as I said, not really unexpected from my point of view.
Just quickly, I mean, I said to you off camera, I don't want to talk about negative stuff today, but one thing I'm going to mention, the sending off for Balbuena. What was your thoughts on that? It's crazy, wasn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure we don't want to spend the whole show talking about it, which we probably could do. No, listen, I don't get it. I can't get my head around modern day football, to be honest with you. I think, and I'm not blaming the players so much. I think it's just some of the rules are a bit silly, and I think the way the rules are interpreted is a bit silly, as was explained. I thought David Moyes summed it up perfectly. You know what he said about the referees. You know, don't quite understand the playing side of it. You know, and if you played the game, you see things differently. You know, it wasn't a sending off. You know, yeah, it's a foul, and you could argue that it possibly merited a yellow card in the current conditions, but you know, it wasn't a sending off. And of course, once that sending off happened, you know, it made it even more difficult for us, and we was already a goal down at that stage anyway. So you know, it was a poor decision, and you know, we could do without decisions like that, I think.
Yeah, I think Ian Wright summed it up perfectly when he said Balbuena has been sent off for kicking a football. Basically,
yeah, that's right. I mean, it's a clearance, and you know, listen, I'm not advocating going back to the good old days when I first started in the 1980s, but listen, I probably had 3 of them a game where the defender would woof the ball clear, and then they'd follow through and wipe you out and take you out and everything and that, and you didn't moan about it. You just got on with it. You certainly didn't roll around on the floor and, you know, trying to get players, you know, booked and sent off and things like that, like certain players do nowadays. So it was a strange decision, really strange decision. And I think they've got to sit down at the end of this season. They've got to look at the rules. They've got to look at where VAR fits into the current game. I'm a fan of VAR. I want to see VAR because I want the mistakes taken out of the game, but I don't want referees interpreting the game in a different way to the players and the fans, because we watch games sometimes and you think, well, you know, how's that offside? How's that a foul? How was that sending off for Balbuena? So something needs to be done, but you know, I won't hold my breath, Ryan, because I think they'll get to the end of the season and they'll probably make up another load of rules, particularly with handball, etc. And next season we'll all be scratching our heads at the start. At least it gives us something to talk about, I suppose. But you know,
yeah, definitely,
it's sort of defeating the object, really. I think with the VAR and all what's going on, it's not it's not for the benefit of the forwards, which is what annoys me, and it's not for the benefit of the game. We want to see goals, we want to see more goals, and we want to see 11 players stand on the pitch. I think we all want to see that, because that's what we go and watch football for.
Yeah, I mean, look, it's a disappointing defeat of the weekend, but we're still in the mix. So my question to you, Tony, is: can West Ham make the top 4?
Well, I think they can. I mean, we all know and believe they can, but we've obviously slipped out of the top 4. We're 3 points behind Chelsea now, aren't we? And that makes it difficult. But listen, before I come on, I just made a quick note of our games that are coming up. If you look at the games, Burnley away, listen, tough game. They had a great result as well, didn't they, against Wolves last night? Yeah. Everton at home. Everton are good away from home. And then you got Brighton, might be safe by then. West Brom might be relegated. And Southampton will definitely be safe. So there's a good 10 points, I would say, for us, in those 5 games at least. If you're playing well and you get your players back, you might be more. But if you're getting a minimum of 10 points, it gives us a chance. I was asked a question a couple of weeks ago about Champions League, and I said my heart said, yes, they'll get in the Champions League. I think my head was always telling me that it might well be a 5th or 6th position finish and Europa League as a result. But you've got to put in perspective, we nearly got relegated last season. So to finish anywhere near the top 6, to be me and you, to be having a conversation and putting Champions League, those 2 words in the sentence with West Ham, as you well know, because you're a long-suffering hammer like a lot of us are, it's not something you normally talk about, is it? So it's just great that we're even sort of dreaming about it, really.
Yeah, I think there was a bit of negativity on social media after the defeat, and like you said, you've got to put into perspective that like this time last year we was desperate for points to stay up, and now we're talking about playing against Chelsea to get into the top 4 with 5 games to go. And as you said, when you look at that running, no game's easy in the Premier League, you know that. But you're looking at that and taking out Everton, who'll probably be battling around for the top 4 as well. They're all winnable games there, and there is a massive chance. There's 15 points up for grabs, and if West Ham was to get 10 out of that 15, we might just sneak it, because Chelsea have got some big games coming up.
Yeah, I think all the clubs have got big games, haven't they? As you quite rightly said, there's no such thing as an easy game at this stage of the season. Never is in the Premier League at any stage. So, you've got to hope that teams are going to drop points. Chelsea might get distracted with the Champions League, etc. That might work in our favour. Who knows? Liverpool have been disappointing, haven't they? Spurs, I don't know what to make of them. I can't make them out this season. Arsenal have been awful. Everton have been inconsistent. The only teams that have sort of been consistent, really, Man City, Manchester United have had a steady season, particularly away from home, and my other old club, Leicester, have been very consistent. But apart from that, the top 3, you can take your pick. There's 4 or 5 teams that are all still in it for the Champions League. And, but one thing I would say, Ryan, even if we finish in the Europa League, I don't go, you hear people say, I don't want to play in the Europa League and don't want to be Thursday, Sundays and all that. Well, not being funny. If you don't want that, you either shouldn't play at the start of the season or you shouldn't go to watch the games at the start of the season. The whole point of playing in the Premier League is to finish as high as possible. And, if we can get into the Europa League, it raises the club's profile. It gives us the opportunity of playing in Europe. It should appease someone like Declan Rice, for example, who wants to play in Europe, and then you get in the shop window. If you have a good run, if you can get to the final, if you win the final, you can play in the Champions League the following season. It's a wonderful opportunity. And yes, of course, it would be a difficult season because we'd have more games and we'd need a bigger squad, etc. But what a lovely problem for David Moyes to have. So, roll on, let's go with it. If we get in the Europa League, you won't hear me saying I'm gutted, I don't want to be in the Europa League. I will be saying, what a fantastic season. Brilliant effort from everyone. And let's go and enjoy it, particularly the fans. I really feel for the fans this year because, as we all know, we're not being able to go to the games. I've missed going to the games, and I get to about 5-6 games a year. The fans that go week in, week out, people like yourself, it must be so hard watching your team play so well and you can't be a part of it. Yeah,
it has been difficult watching it from home. I mean, sometimes when the game finishes, I think, well, at least I ain't got that long walk back to the station now. I've only got to walk back to my front room. But
there is that to it. That's 20 a good one, is it, when we've lost
I miss it, mate. And I can't wait to be back there, full stadiums again. And even with the cup final yesterday, having the little crowd there, it was nice to see crowds back at football. And hopefully we'll be back next season and cheering on the boys. And as you said, hopefully in Europe, because I'm the same as you. I can't understand fans that won't be happy with Europa. I mean, at the beginning of the season, I'll be happy with 14th if I'm honest. We've really punched above our weight this season, and we've earned it. We have definitely earned it. We've played some good good football this season. It's been enjoyable to watch.
Yeah, we have. Yeah, I mean, as a team, we've been consistent. I keep saying all the words that you don't normally put with West Ham, like consistent and resilient and all these complicated words that they talk about all the other teams. They never say about West Ham, and they never describe us as that. And we've been that this year. And the manager deserves great credit because he's got the lads well organised. We've got some good players as well. I think it's important to remember that, particularly going forward. We've got some really, really good players. We do need players to the squad. We definitely need one, if not two, centre forwards because. Mikel, I love Mickey at bits, but if he's going to be injured or whatever, then you can't just have him. And if he's not playing, you haven't even got centre forward to play instead of him. It's crazy, really. But that's got to be addressed in the summer, quite obviously. But it's been a really good season. I really enjoyed it. Do
you think that people will look back in that as a key moment in January where we let someone like Sebastian Haller go and we didn't bring in a replacement? We've just relied on Antonio staying fit. And as you said, I'm a massive fan of Antonio, but he picks up his injuries. And, do you think that might come back to haunt us? Well, not investing?
I understand the logic behind it. And obviously we brought Jesse Lingard in, didn't we? Which, everyone, we've all really enjoyed watching Jesse come back to form. It's been fantastic to watch. It's always difficult. I don't want to be too harsh on the club because in that January window, it's so hard to find any players, let alone the right players. And, listen, Haller, I think Haller had to move on. It hadn't worked for him. He cost a lot of money. He probably was costing a lot of money in wages. And, we needed to move him on. But once you cleared him off the books, they should have been able to get someone in, or maybe they just felt Jesse could fill that gap. And to be fair, he's done that. He scored the goals. And so you can't be too critical of what went on. But having said that, you can't just have one backup centre forward or one attacking midfielder to play as a centre forward. If we get into the Europa League next year, if, and it's a big if we were to play two forwards every match, then you need 4 strikers in your squad. You've got to have cover for both players. If you play with one up front, you've still got to have 3 centre forwards. And at the moment, working on the basis that really Mickey's not really a centre forward. He's done fantastic, but he's not an out-and-out centre forward in what you would describe in the old school way. We haven't really got any centre forward. So, there's a bit of rebuilding to be done for that squad for next year. But as I say, it's going to be a lovely problem for David Moyes, scratching his head thinking, what quality players can we add to the quality players we got to play in the Europa League? How good would that be? Yeah,
there's a lot of pressure on the players these days. I mean, you was part of obviously the great team in '86 that went so close. I mean, it's not the same because you boys were going for the title back then, but compared to now, going for the Champions League for these players is massive. So, what sort of pressure would they be feeling? Do they know that the fans expect and what they want, and what sort of pressure do you think they're under at the moment?
Well, I think firstly they would know what the fans expect and want because you've got people like Mark Noble in that dressing room and Declan Rice, who've grown up around the fans, particularly Nobes, of course, and he would be telling them what the fans are thinking and wanted. So, pressure-wise, you can't really quantify what the pressure is, and if you've not been in that position, sometimes it's hard to deal with it. But I don't see us not handling the pressure. I think there's been games where we've stepped up to the plate. I mean. We had that tremendous run with the 4 games where there was lots and lots of goals, weren't there? And it was a bit edgy your seat stuff at times. But, we beat Leicester. We beat Wolves. They're good teams. I know we only drew with Arsenal, but we're 3-0 up against Arsenal. And, there's many a West Ham team over the years, and I'm sure you would have seen games, Ryan, where we've been 3-0 up at home and lost 4-3. I'm sure you can remember 1, if not 2, maybe even more than that, where we've done that. So, the fact that we didn't lose 4-3 to Arsenal is a real positive as well. We've still got a point out of the game, So, pressure, I don't see pressure as a problem. I think the players are enjoying it. I think there's a good team spirit. There's a good vibe about the club. And, if you can't enjoy it at the moment, you shouldn't be playing football. You should be going out there, trying your hardest, trying your best, and just carry on doing what they're doing. And, listen, I don't think they will fall down because of the pressure. I think they ultimately might fall down because they've lost their 2 best players. That might not help them towards the end of the season. But it won't be for a lack of effort, and I don't think pressure will play too much of a part.
Yeah, I definitely think with 5 games to go, I think we're not going to be short of entertainment at West Ham. There's going to be ups and downs. There's going to be so much change in that top four over the next 5 games. It's like who wants it more. But you listen, if the season ended now, we've had a great season. A season that we could only dream of at the beginning of the year.
Yeah. And I mean, you said about it, like, you'd have taken 14th position. And, I firmly believe that if you're running a football club and you're looking to do things right at a football club, you've got to look to improve on your previous position in the league. And where did we finish last year, Ryan? What was it? 16th in the end, was it?
Yeah.
Or something like that?
16th, 17th, something like that.
Right. So, I would have been like you. I would have been saying, well, let's try and get in that 15th to 10th position. Let's try and finish there. So have a nice, stable season. And then when you finish there, then you then look to go 9th position next year, and then 8th, and then 7th, and then 6th, and then gradually build and try and challenge for the Champions League. But rather than doing that in 5 years' time, we've done that this season. So, it shows you the great strides. I think where we have got to be careful is a bit like what happened with the 86 season, because the season before and the season after, not a lot happened at the club. If anything, we've done our usual and flirted with relegation. So, it'd be nice to think that we're going to have a decent season again next year, but we've got to get things right and, obviously finish this season first. But, got to make sure that it's not a one-off season and we don't go back into the old ways. But, listen, if we finish 7th or 8th, and, listen, we'll be disappointed if we don't get into Europe, but we'll still say, wow, it was a good season and we really enjoyed it.
Yeah, I think and this goes for every club. I think it don't matter how good you've been, you've always got to look to improve. Alex Ferguson done it at Man United, even when they was having their great days. He always looked to improve. So we don't want, as you said, you don't want to have a great season, then take 2 steps back and then be down near the bottom next season, because where's the improvement?
Yeah, and the manager's got to be allowed to do what he's been allowed to do over the last sort of, I don't know, however long David's been back at the club. He just let him get on with it. He knows what he's doing. He's got a fantastic record in terms of transfer players. When he was at Everton and when he's been at West Ham. If you allow him to bring in the hungry players and players that are willing to prove a point, Jesse Lingard being a perfect example. You bring someone in who can't get a game at Man United and does what he's doing. Look at other players that come in. Jared Bowen's been a great success. The 2 Czech boys. He's done a really good job in the transfer market. So, yeah, he needs to strengthen the squad, and David knows that. But he needs to be given a little bit of money as well. Just let's use a little bit of that money. Whatever's in the kitty, let him get on with it, and let's try and improve. And I think there's a bit of dead wood that needs clearing out, but that's not just West Ham. That's every Premier League club. There might be 4 or 5 players that are either not good enough or in the squad and not really been used this year. You move those 4 or 5 on, and then you bring in another 4 or 5 to boost the squad. But you've always got to be looking to improve, and I think that's the key to it.
Yeah, I probably know your answer to this, mate, because I know how much you loved playing in front of the crowds at West Ham. But I've heard a few pundits say that West Ham's success this season is down to not having the fans there. What's your thoughts on that, mate? Do you agree with that?
Well, there's 2 things I would say to that. I would say that, yes, it probably helped us at the start of the season because, let's be honest, losing at home to Newcastle, and that was a really poor performance, wasn't it, in that first game. So that would have been a bad atmosphere at the end of that game. We know there would have been. We then lost to Arsenal, but was unlucky. And then I think we played it. Was it home to Wolves? I think was the next home game, wasn't it? And I get it. There's an argument to say that if we'd have been playing in front of our fans after losing 2-0 at home to Newcastle, it would have there'd been a few moans and groans, and sometimes it can be difficult for the players when you're playing in that sort of atmosphere. So yeah, I understand it for the start of the season, but the one thing I would say in answer to that as well is that if we'd have had our fans in at the weekend against Chelsea, then they might have inspired our players because when this, Ryan, you've only seen it too consistently, but whenever West Ham do have a little good season, a little good spell, or they do well in a cup or whatever, the fans are like a 12th man. They are that good, they are that powerful and that positive and everything. And I think the latter part of the season, early part of the season, I get where people are coming from. The latter part of the season, I think, if anything, it would have cost us points, not gained us points.
Yeah, and as I said, I've heard a few pundits say, as a fan, I think obviously it's a ridiculous statement, but I can sort of understand. You're right. If we'd have lost that, been there for the first game of the season when we lost 2-0. Saying that though, first game of the season, people usually like having a good drink up after the game, so I think we probably would have took that. But you've mentioned him a couple of times, David Moyes. what a great job he's done since and bearing in mind, this is his first full season in charge at West Ham. Yeah. What a great job he's done.
Well, he was the first spell, and he is for his second spell exactly what West Ham needed. I didn't understand when they got rid of the manager the first time. I really didn't, because he saved us from relegation. And then you're thinking, let him get on with it. Let him do what he did at Everton, because we needed. I keep mentioning Everton, but he'd done such a good job at Everton because he was given 10, 11 years to build and create what he wanted. I understand in a way why the board made their decision. And I understand why it was like, let's get a so-called world-class manager. I mean, the one thing he weren't, Pellegrini, was world-class manager, was he? I mean, he was awful. He was really, really awful. And he wasn't the right fit for West Ham. And also, not only did they appoint him, they also gave him loads of money to spend that we're probably still suffering and paying for. Is Felipe Anderson still a player? I think he is. And is he on loan?
Yeah, he's on loan at Porto. He ain't even getting in their team.
Yeah, exactly. Cost a fortune. I dread to think what his wages are. So, there was what you would call an experiment that was done by the board. And I didn't agree with it at the time. I said that at the time. They shouldn't have done it. They should have just let David Moyes keep control. And the reason I wanted David Moyes to take control is because we needed stability. It was been like 3 or 4 years, very tumultuous since we moved from Upton Park. We know that it's been difficult for everyone, fans, players, everyone. And we needed a season where we just had like an Alan Kirbishley season, if you like, where you finish 10th, and you're never going to get in Europe, but you're never going to get relegated. And that was really what we needed, a couple of years of that, just to stabilise the football club, keep the money coming in, let him rebuild, let him, just get rid of the deadwood, like I said, and bring in some few players. That's what David needed to do. And he's done that this time, but he should have been allowed to do it when he had that first spell. It was a crazy decision. I said that at the time, say it again, absolute madness to appoint Pellegrini. But we can't keep going on about bad decisions. You said, like, the great thing with football, it's always the next game. So, we can't go on about it too much. But he's done a wonderful job, David. And as I say, just let him get on with it. Trust me, he knows what he's doing. He's managed one of the biggest clubs in the world. He's done a brilliant job at Everton, as I've already said. And, let him get on with it. And hopefully he will take the club forward.
Yeah, one thing I liked about David Moyes, he's recruited well on the pitch, but off the pitch as well. His backroom staff that he brought in, Stuart Pearce, Kevin Nolan, people that know the club. And that's what I think we was lacking, especially under Pellegrini. You need players connected with the football club to understand, the fans and what we expect. And yeah, I'm really pleased for David Moyes. And one thing I like about him as well, every time you flick on a game on telly, he's in the stands watching. Yeah. He's always working, and he cares. He seems to care.
Very thorough, and he's not a lazy manager. He's not like someone who don't bother. You see him. If we're playing, I don't know, Burnley or whatever, he probably would have been at Wolves last night. I don't know whether he was or he wasn't, but I get that impression that he's very, very detailed with everything he does. And you're always learning as a football manager, and I think David's like that. And he takes it on board. You're quite right. He's appointed some really good backroom staff, and you need a Kevin Nolan, you need a Stuart Pearce in that dressing room to like get them pumped up and get them going, the boys. And I'm sure they've been a big part of that as well. So yeah, the manager deserves great credit, but ultimately it's not the manager on the field of play. The players have got to take the credit as well, because they're the ones who go out and perform on the weekend.
Yeah, I think a lot of fans, they want this big name, exciting for a manager, but sometimes you just got to go back to your roots, your old school, and it seems to be working with David Moyes. And long may it continue. I'm really pleased for him.
But that's not what our club's all about, though, Ryan. We're a family club. We're a community club. We're not a club. We don't need to have the Chelsea model where you bring in top foreign managers and they last a year if they're lucky, or and then you get the next one and the next one. Yeah, of course we'd all like the success that Chelsea have had over the last 15 years. Of course we'd like that, but we also don't want to lose our roots. We don't want to lose that family feel about the football club. And, I think, David is a very caring manager. And, I get the impression that he looks after everyone at the training ground and looks after the players. And that's the type of manager we need. We don't need a so-called big name who comes to the club, doesn't care about the club, don't understand the club, not interested in the fans. And unfortunately, all those things apply to Pellegrini.
Yeah, I mean, one player I want to talk about who's been in fine form since we signed him, Jesse Lingard. What have you made of Jesse Lingard since he's been at the club? He's made such an impact.
Yeah, he has, and I think it's not just on the field. I think it's off the field as well, which is great. I admire him really, because I think in modern day football, we see a lot of players nowadays who don't really love the game, getting paid an awful lot of money, as we know. And I think sometimes it's really easy to go, do you know what? I've got a year or 2 years left on my contract to Man United. I'm not playing, but you know what? I'm not bothered. I'm getting me 100 grand a week or 150 grand a week, whatever it might be. And, you know, and players just, and your career goes that fast, Ryan. It flies by. And I admire him because he got to the stage, he's had a few personal issues, as we know, but he got to the stage where he said, I want to play football. And, you know, and the fact that Moyes was in charge of West Ham, that obviously worked in our favour as well. You know, I'm sure other clubs would have been sniffing around, and they will be at the end of the season. You know, but he made the right decision. He's been sensational. He really has. You know, I said at the time when we signed him, you know, let's hope we get the Jesse Lingard back from 2 or 3 years ago, because like none of us want to see someone come in who, you know, can't be bothered, a bit lazy, you know, don't track back, and don't want to score, don't want to cross the ball, you know, just comes just to fill in the time between now and the end of the season type of thing. We didn't want to see that. We wanted to see what we'd seen from Manchester United in his early days, that direct, dynamic player. And, you know, his form's been brilliant. He's been breath of fresh air, hasn't he, to watch. And I think every West Ham fan, they're probably just all disappointed like me, where you've not been able to go to the games to actually appreciate real life. And, you know, we just hope that we can keep him for next season.
Well, hopefully he'll be doing that in the West Ham shirt on European nights next season, and we'll be able to watch him live. But
and that's what I said about Europe as well. You know, in terms of Jesse, if we get into Europe, then you're dangling a carrot for him to sign for the club. So, you know, that's why it becomes important, because you want to keep the top players at the football club.
Yeah, you mentioned about he's obviously had his issues, and he had that interview last week, which I thought was a great interview. It was so refreshing to see a football player open up, because there'll be a lot of young people out there that suffer with mental health and depression, and they'll look at someone like Jesse Lingard going through it, and they'll say, do you know what? If he can get through it, so can I. What did you make of that? Would you like to see more players be more open like that?
But I get the impression that players are becoming a bit more open. You know, I think where they're lucky or fortunate. You know, I didn't have it as a young kid. I was in the first team 17. I was a regular 18, and I had no media training. I didn't have anyone sort of helping me and guiding me and telling me what to do or say. And that, you know, I needed help, and I never got it. But these young players, they get it. They get the guidance. They get the media training and everything. And I think as a result of that, I think we see when they're allowed to, because a lot of the problems and issues is that the clubs don't let the players be interviewed. They want to protect them and keep them. Oh yeah, no, he ain't talking to the press. He can't do this. He can't do that. But when you listen to players, sometimes, you know, you think, do you know what? They're actually talking sense. You know, there's actually quite a clever lad there, or, you know, he knows what the world's about. They actually appreciate. They're obviously living in the football bubble, and, you know, that must be difficult in a way. But sometimes you hear players talking. I hear James Maddison at Leicester. You know, listen to some of these players. You can listen to them, and you thinking, wow, you know, you actually want to listen to them. It ain't like sick as a parrot and over the moon and all the cliches and catchphrases we used to get. You know, you get a little bit more meat on the bone nowadays with the players. I think they're a little bit more confident with their talking. And yeah, it was a great interview from Jess, wasn't it? And, you know, I want to see more of that.
Yeah, definitely. One other player, he's out injured at the moment. Honestly, I can't wait to get him back. Declan Rice. I mean, can we keep hold of him?
Well, when I left West Ham in 1988, there was probably 3 reasons, Ryan. One, which won't apply to Dec, is probably money, although it probably does apply to him, because he ain't getting paid what he deserves at West Ham. He deserves to be on at least on a par with whoever the top earner is at West Ham. Declan should be on the same as that. I know he's not on that. You know, listen, first thing I would do if ever I got involved with a club, I would sign Declan, and I would sign David Moyes, who's not signed a contract either. Get him on a long-term contract. That's the first thing. So money, yeah, it probably is an issue, only because he's not getting what he should have been rewarded with. And the 2 other reasons that I left West Ham was, you know, I wanted the club to win something, and you know, I wanted to play in Europe as well. And, like, you know, I know there was the ban on at the time and everything, but you want to win a cup, or you want to play in Europe. And, like, if you fast forward now 33 years or whatever it is since I sort of left West Ham, and you can put the same things with Dec. And Dec wants to win a trophy. You know, he'll be going on away with England at the end of the season, and he'll be listening to all the Man City boys talking about how they're winning the trophies, and Chelsea playing in the semi-finals of the Champions League, listen to Mason Mount, his best mate, and all that sort of stuff. And you can't blame Dec, because he'd be thinking, I want to win a trophy.
Do you know what he should do? Do you know what he should do? He should sit next to the Tottenham players. No, with trophies.
No, exactly. No, I know. He won't get nothing out of them boys, will he? But you know what I'm saying.
Yeah.
You've got ambition in with your football career. You want to play in Europe. You want to win a cup, and you want to earn as much money as you can, because when you're retired, you've got 50 years of your life to live. So, yeah, he needs to be able to sort of get to the end of his career and look back and say, you know, I earned the money, I won a cup, hopefully for West Ham, and I played in Europe as well. And if we can give him that, you know, that's what I say. The Europa League might be a lot more important than what people actually think it is. It's not like a Mickey Mouse European Cup that no one's bothered about. This is a way to keep Declan Rice. This is a way to keep Jesse Lingard. This is a way to keep our other top players that we got. We're in Europe, and then if you get a pool of players together, quality players that we got, you've got a chance of winning a trophy. You know, we need to do better in the cups. The cup performances over the last 10 years not been good enough. Or you could argue probably since 2006, since we got to the final. You know, there's been too much of, oh yeah, we'll put a weaker team out and lose to Oxford or lose to Wimbledon or whoever it might be. You know, not good enough. We have to do better in the cups as well. So got to put that right. But you know, I'm with you. I think Dec's been fantastic. He's been sensational this year, and you know, we want to keep him at the football club. I do not want to see him. I want to see him be captive for the next 10 years. I want him to stay, lift up the trophy, and become another Billy Bonds or another Bobby Moore, because there's only two players ever lifted like the trophies for West Ham, and that's the two names. And if you can get in that company, then you've done really well.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, look, Declan's only 22. He's over 100 Premier League appearances for West Ham, and you know he's got the world at his feet at the moment. There's no pressure on him at the moment either. But as you say, you go away with the England squads and you get the players in your ears. We're doing this, we're doing that, and as you said, football's a short career. It goes by so fast. So yeah, I think if we show a bit of ambition, I think, as I said, Declan Rice only 22. Even if we keep him for another 3-4 years and then he leaves, he'll still be young. But let's hope that we can keep hold of him, as you said, join that great company of being in the names of Bobby Moore, Billy Bonds, and all them types of players.
Yeah, well, that's what we want him to be, isn't it? You know, we want Dec to be at the club, and you know, he's you know, Nobes is going to retire, isn't he, end of next season? You know, going forward, he's going to be the club captain. So, you know, I think there's a possibility he can, you know, see out his dreams and that, you know, and be a one club player as well, because like, you know, they're few and far between, and you know, you're held in such esteem. You know, if you can do what Nobes has done and stay at the club, you know, for your whole career, but the club has got to match Dec's ambitions. You know, he's playing for England, so he can't even say that, oh, because I'm playing for West Ham, I'm not playing for England, because that's not true either. You know, he's getting game time for England, and the reason he's playing for England, he's the best player in that position. And I include Jordan Henderson in that as well. Like, if you're going to pick a player, you've got to pick Dec in front of Jordan Henderson. You know, a holding midfield player at the moment for England has got to be Declan Rice in front of Jordan Henderson. That's my opinion. You know, and that's how well he's doing, and that's a great compliment, because Jordan's really improved. He's a top player, captain of Liverpool, etc. You know, and that, you know, there's so many sort of compliments that you can pay to Dec, but the club has got to match his ambition. Otherwise, he will ultimately leave the football club.
Yeah, I mean, let's hope that we do tie him down to not literally, but let's tie him down to a new 5-year deal, whatever. Give him what he deserves, and as you said, he should be one of the top earners. But another player, as you said, retires next season, Mark Noble. You know, you're a West Ham fan through and through. You played for your boyhood club, scored for your boyhood club. You love them still to this day. What a great servant Mark Noble's been for West Ham over the years.
He's been fantastic, Ryan. And it's not just the role of club captain has changed over the years. You know, like the days where you was captain on the field and you led on the field, whether that was a Bobby Moore or a Billy Bonds and that, you know, but you didn't have to do loads and loads off the field. And I think those days have changed. I think there's a lot more responsibility comes with a club captain, and off the field as well. You're trying to unite all the players. You're trying to help all the players. You're often the link between the manager and the players. You know, and there's a huge responsibility on your shoulders. And you know, I've been delighted to see how well Dec's done, but he's got tough boots to follow, because you know, Nobes has been brilliant. He's been a great servant to the football club. He's been a very underrated player, in my opinion. I think he don't play well every game, but no one plays well every game, not unless you're Messi or Ronaldo, obviously. But you know, most players, you have your little dip in form every now and again, and you know, and he comes back, and you know, he don't moan. You don't see him going to the newspapers saying, "I want to do this," I don't like this or whatever. He gets his head down and he maintains that captain's role. And you know, he's someone that I think, and you know, I will say this: he has to stay at the football club. Now, whether that is coaching the under-8s or under-18s or backroom staff for David Moyes with the first, I don't know what his role would be. Club ambassador, I don't know. I really don't know. But you know, when someone gives their whole career, you know, he deserves great credit for that. And I think there should be a role at West Ham Football Club going forward for Mark Noble.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think he'd definitely stay on at the club. And, you know, I was brought up in the same area as Mark Noble. So, you know, I dreamed of playing for West Ham, and this boy has done it so many times. And I'm a big Mark Noble fan. It really frustrates me when fans give him a bit of stick, because we've always grown up, you know, we love our own. We love bringing through the youth. And Mark Noble's been there through the more bad times than good, but he's stuck by the club, you know, and he loves the club, and he always will.
Yeah, and I think sometimes the fans get a little bit frustrated, and if you get frustrated, then you just pick on a target, don't you? And for whatever reason, you know, it's not a new thing where the fans are just take the frustration out on a player, because even when I played in the 80s, when I played in the 90s, there was always someone that the crowd could not pick on, but they would vent their frustration more at those players than say me or Alan Devonshire or whoever it might have been, you know. There's always a player that just gets a little bit, the fans get frustrated and they have to take their anger out somewhere. And I get where the fans are coming from, I really do. But I think in terms of Nobes, I don't think he really should be a target because of what he's given to the football club.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. But Tony, look, I won't keep you too much longer, mate, because I know you're covering the Leicester game tonight.
Right, yeah, a little bit of work to do tonight, yeah.
But my last question is, now there's a lot of fans this season that have compared this squad to the sort of boys of '86. So what I want to know is, would you take any player out of this team and put them in the boys of '86 team? Is there anyone that you think would get in that team?
Yeah, I think Deck would get in the team without a doubt. And you know, I think this is not my faults, but I think the sort of the general consensus of opinion of that famous team in '86 was the two positions where, I mean, it was pretty much 9 players that played the whole season in their positions. We was very fortunate with a lack of injuries, which was great. But the two positions where we did change was left back and holding midfield player. I've already said that will get in our team. I think, you know, even with our boys fit, you had Jeff Pite, Neil, or I think with the greatest respect, that would get in our team anyway. And then you look at the left back position, we had Georgie Paris and we had Stevie Walford. And there's probably a case for Aaron Creswell maybe slotting into that left back position. You know, the great shame of the '86 season is, of course, the year later, in 1987, there was 2 players who broke into our team. One was called Julian Dix, who was left back, and the other was called Paul Ince, who was a holding midfield player. And if we'd have had those two, I think we would have won the league in '86. But no, it's great. Listen, it's great, isn't it, to be able to even talk about the current team, about what we achieved. And as you quite rightly said, you know, that listen, they haven't challenged for the league. We know that, but they've challenged for the Champions League positions, and that's the holy grail of the modern day football, isn't it? You know, to try and get in that Champions League. And you know, I think it's been great for all us boys of '86 to just, you know, to have the media ringing you up and saying, "Oh, what about your year and what happened?" and that, because of how well the current team are doing, not because of what we did, because that's 35 years ago and long forgotten, but because the team's doing so well, the current team. They're coming back to us, and we're all reminiscing about what a great season that was. But, you know, we don't want it to be another 35 years before, you know, West Ham have another great season, because I've got to be honest with you, I'll be 90 years of age by then, and I'm not sure I'll even be around to see it. So,
well, I'll be in my 70s.
Yeah, exactly. We don't want it to be a one-off season, and that was the point I made earlier, wasn't it? We wanted to, you know, we want to try and build on this. You know, it's been a great season, but, you know, long live the boys of '86. But let's hope these boys, you know, crack on, and at the end of this season, we're in Europe, whatever competition that might be, and then, you know, I'll see you at the London Stadium. We have a nice pint and that, and all look forward to a nice European tour.
Lovely. Tony, listen, mate, I could sit here and talk football with you all night, but it's been an absolute pleasure for me personally, because I missed the first interview we done with you. And as I said, you were the first player I see score live. I was born on the 10th of March, 1984, and we drew 1-1 at home to Wolves that day, and you scored that day.
I'm your life then, Ryan.
Well, I was going to say, and the first player I ever met in real life was you when you come to Eastie School.
Ah, wow.
So yeah, you've always a little part in my life. I definitely need to get a photo of you on my wall. I feel guilty now.
I'm just disappointed. I can see Nobes in the background and a few others, but I'm not there. But next time I come on, I'm going to come on next season. If I'm not on that wall, then you're in trouble.
Mate, I'm going to do the whole wall just of you and Tony Cottee. But listen, Tony, thank you so much for joining me, mate. It's been an absolute pleasure. And one thing left to say. Come on, you Irons.
Come on, you Irons. Cheers, Ryan. Thanks, mate.